with another video today. So I'm in the same shirt. That way you're not like, wasn't she just wearing that in another video? Why yes, indeed I was. I have created this new platform here at YouTube so that I can help to filter over the playlist that I had already done with my Sparkle by Monica channel. But now I thought it would be best to kind of tie it in, because I get so many questions from fellow creators about how did you get started in your business? How did you make the decision to transition over from a hobby to a business? What do you do as far as your local versus your online, you know, things like that. So I thought, okay, well, this would be a great way to pull those people I've already connected with that are kind, you know, they make videos and they're crafty and creative, into a group so that these types of questions can be answered. There can be more communication that everyone can see. There can be files to be shared and all that stuff. So one of the things I wanted to do, where I mentioned in the welcome video, is Marketing Mondays. So that's what we're going to do. I started to call it Marketing Mondays with Monica, but I think that would be too much of a tongue twister. So what I want to do is explain what all this mess is. Firstly, I would like to introduce you to Pearl. This is my little mug here that my sister got for my birthday here recently. And because she's kind of pearlized and white, she looks like a pearl. I make handmade jewelry, so I thought that would be perfect. But this is where my Diet Coke is going to be instead of the boring can that you all normally see in my other videos. This is going to be just a series where I'm going to give brief tips on how to market yourself, whether you're a hobby or a business. So today's episode number 1 of Marketing Mondays, we are going to talk about the difference of being a hobby versus a business. From my personal experience, I have my notes here. If you are a crafty creator and you're just doing this for fun, you're not following any kind of business plan, you are making things just for your enjoyment of making them. You are making things for your friends and family and you're not charging them for it. That's a hobby. There are certain IRS regulations even that look differently at a hobby versus a business. There are several IRS guidelines, which I have on a 2-page document that I'm going to share in our Facebook group for those of you who are interested in that information. But they have a whole thing like, how do you distinguish between a business and a hobby? Making the distinction between a hobby or business activity, take into account all effects and circumstances with respect to the activity. No one factor alone is decisive. You must generally consider the factors in determining whether an activity is a business engaged in making a profit. That is the whole key to that answer. There are like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 factors into what you consider the activity in a business engaged in making a profit. So they've also got some other little tips for you as far as different questions, you know, allowing hobby deductions, limits on hobby expenses, how to deduct your hobby expenses using the IRS free file for all that. And then, is it a business or a hobby? It does, the number one thing, a key feature of a business is that people do it to make a profit. And again, like I said before, that is the key. People engage in a hobby for sport or recreation, not to make a profit. And that's how really the IRS kind of gives you a little guideline, but then they give you even further instruction as far as you can also try to make a profit in your hobby and think, okay, well then that makes me a business. But if you are at a loss for 5 or more years within a 7-year period, they will knock you back from being, you know, classifying yourself as a business back over to a hobby if you're not making any money. But also there's several different factors that come into that as far as, you know, were you actively promoting yourself? Were you marketing yourself and all of that? It might be operating at a loss for that length of time, no fault of your own, because you're trying so in order to make that profit. So there's various factors involved in that. I am not a tax professional by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're at the Facebook group, I will share that document and the links to the IRS to get more information. And also, if you have a CPA that you are using, you might want to also ask them for that information as far as their own input and insight into that. Personally though, if you make more than $600 in a year, to me that's a business, okay? If it's coming from your craft, what that you're selling. One, are you selling? Well, if you are selling, then you are a business, okay? Okay, if you're a hobby, you're not selling it, you're just giving these things away to people because it's of enjoyment. But if you're selling, yeah, you're going to need to go the road of getting your tax ID and your business license and all of that stuff. Are you participating in events? Even a craft fair. You know, a lot of people will participate in these craft fairs through their church and not think, okay, well, I'm not a business, I'm just doing this at church. Well, you're selling, so yes, that is a business. Now, you might be required in some instances at craft fairs to have a business license. Not everyone, but there will be times where you are required to actually display your business license. If you're selling anywhere, you're a business, really and truly. Depending on where you're selling, they may require the business license or they may not, but you're still considered a business in true form of the definition if you are making a profit or you're attempting to make a profit. Are you just doing this for pleasure? You know, if you're just kind of doing this as a stress reliever or for fun, that's a hobby. You are outreaching to boutiques, to other places of business, that maybe your doctor's office or your dental office, and you're asking, hey, can I display some of my things here to sell? That's something a business would do. Are you charging for the instruction that you offer or for your services? In other words, are you being a tutor for whatever your craft is or your art is? Are you offering that as a service in your community? That's a business. And then, do you have business cards and brochures? I have business cards. You know, you've got a business card with your information, you have an email and everything, a way to contact you, a phone number. That's a business. Do you have brochures? I teach jewelry making and I offer my services as a tutor as well as group parties and things. So I have created a brochure. That's a business. So those are types of things that you can do to kind of make the differentiation. People that have an Etsy shop or an Amazon handmade shop, even though you think, well, I mean, I just started that. That's a business. You are trying to promote yourself in such a way that you are selling what you create. So no matter, you know, IRS regulations and certain numbers, profit margins and all that, if you are actively promoting yourself and you are selling what you make, go ahead and consider yourself a business. Get yourself the proper licensing and everything so that you are not going to be surprised when the IRS comes a-knocking, if they ever do. Or, like, say you apply to a craft fair, or you call them up and say, hey, I'd like to get a table at your next event. And they say, okay, where's your business license? You know, you have it. Or I've even had fellow creators tell me this. The event promoter didn't require their business license. However, someone from the county or the city visited the craft fair or visited the event and walked to each booth or walked by each table and requested to see their business license. I didn't know I had to have a business license, they said. And they said, well, you know, regardless of whether the craft fair or the promoter of this event requires you to have it, you're here selling in our city or county, you need to have a business license. Surprise! Goodbye, see you later, you need to leave. That was not pleasant for those people. So in order to avoid that humiliation and embarrassment, just go ahead, if you've considered all of these types of things that I've mentioned here, go ahead and get your tax ID and a business license. Some places you'll have to start paying quarterly sales tax. I know here in El Paso, I have to do that. I can either choose to do that quarterly or I can do that at the end of the year. So, I mean, it's on a time frame. You have to pay your sales tax here in Texas. Those types of things are kind of a pain in the rear end to have to keep up with. That's my professional term for it. Even though collectively, when I look at everything as far as inventory that I have on hand, supplies that I have purchased versus the income and revenue from teaching or selling my products, collectively I may have a loss. I'm still a business. If I do that more than 5 years in a row, up to 7 years, and the IRS comes back and says, Monica, I think we're going to say that you're a hobby. But I'm still operating as that business, so I'm still going to need my sales tax ID number, my licensing and all of that all of that in order to continue to operate my website, to get paid when I teach at these various locations. When you decide to transition from hobby to business, and even if maybe you eventually get forced back over into the hobby category, you're still operating as a business. Now, ultimately, as long as you are trying to be in an active way of promoting your business or your hobby as a business, then you're not going to struggle with getting knocked back into the hobby category. If you're just kind of a fly by the seat of your pants and, I don't need business cards, or, I started out the first part of the year as a business, but then I got kind of tired of it. Well, then, they're gonna bump you back to hobbyist. So just be careful, be calm, cool, and collected. Obviously, consult your CPA, your accountants, and kind of get their take on what your plans are, where you would like to go. But never assume things, okay? Now, there are all sorts of forums that you can also visit. If you're on Etsy, they have the Etsy forum that you can go and look and get a lot of good information from. However, I will caution you, on those online forums, keep in mind they are also not licensed professionals that you can hold accountable should you follow advice that you find on those forums and you get in trouble because you said, well, I read that on an Etsy forum. No, you just take that into consideration. That is not necessarily the rule of law. Now, everything that I follow, I either get it directly from the IRS or I am consulting a professional that I can then come back to and say, well, the CPA advised me, or the CPA did my taxes, or you know what I'm saying? Now, it's all good to follow advice, because you will find in forums that there are CPAs and lawyers that visit these forums and offer up advice, but typically they're also going to send you to a link that you find at the IRS anyway, okay? So be careful with what you read. Just like what they say about the newspapers and the media, you can't always trust everything that you see there. It's the same thing. It's valuable insight. It's very well the truth. But don't let that be the be-all, end-all as far as what you're getting out of it. Because ultimately, when you decide how you're going to run your business or operate your hobby, it's going to be the decision that you make and your records and documentation that you have. Should you need it, which let's hope you don't. Let's knock on some wood somewhere, okay? So, now, as far as what I have here in front of me, because I do operate as a business, I teach classes locally. I reach out to a lot of different places here in my community to teach classes. I also offer personal tutoring and group parties. So I do employ brochures that have my pricing, different information that I give as far as each individual type of service that I offer. I do actually have some business cards. They are very handy whenever I sell a bracelet or a piece of jewelry. I pop one of my business cards into my package that I mail off, and then they can come back to me for repeat business because it's a reminder, oh yeah, that's where I got that bracelet. And then I also, when I'm at craft fairs and things, I have display signage that I can put my business cards and my brochures in. When I teach classes, I also bring this type of signage. So these little plastic sign holders are very good to invest in whenever you decide if you're going to be a business or not. So I hope these little tips have helped you with your Marketing Monday decisions. And again, this is a new group. I have decided to kind of pull everything together and offer different types of things on different days of the week. So if you like this Marketing Monday, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe here to this channel. If you are also a fellow handmade crafty creator that makes videos and tutorials online in your own YouTube channel or Vimeo or Twitch or wherever it is that you post, feel free to join the Facebook group, Video Crafty Creators. I'll have the links and everything in the description below. We have a Twitter, Crafty Creators with a Z. We have an Instagram now, which it's also Crafty Creators with a Z. And then we also have the playlist where you can watch your fellow crafty creatives if you want to. Right now it's housed at the Sparkle by Monica, but I have it linked over here to the Video Creators YouTube channel, but also keeping it at the Sparkle by Monica. That way you get double exposure for whatever video, or if you have a channel introduction of your video channel. That way you'll be at both places. I didn't really want to take that away from the Sparkle by Monica because I do have a larger audience over there. Until this group gets built up, we'll have it at both places. Feel free to join the social media platforms everywhere, and I hope you have a sparkle-rific day. Bye, y'all!